Something was wrong with the fireworks by the prowler. The sun sets and the sky is now dark. Bright flashes of light illuminate the darkened sky with colors, bright, beautiful colors. Loud pops and screeches typically heard on this night have been replaced with moans and tormented, painful pleas. There's something wrong with the fireworks. The souls of the tormented that had been collected are now being released with every burst of light. Ghostly trails stretch across the night sky of the spirits searching for peace. They disappear in the night air as the crowds below gasp in fear as to what they are witnessing. Then after a few minutes, all is quiet. There is no more moaning, no more sounds of tormented pain, no more screams from the crowd, just silence. The people rush to their boxes of empty fireworks to see if something could explain what had just happened, but they find nothing. Everything seems the same, just as any other year, but it wasn't the same as any other year. The crowd was in disbelief. They were frightened. Something was wrong with the fireworks. It started off as such an idyllic 4th of July. Death Goes to the Seashore by Brazos. It's a tradition for my town to have its fireworks display over the ocean. The reflection of the starbursts make for the best 4th of July celebration I've seen. As usual, the whole beach was packed with barbecuers, sunbathers, and people engaging in all manner of water activities from mid-morning on. Around afternoon, some swimmers and snorkelers, including my wife, began complaining of a headache. It was warmer than normal, so the lifeguards assumed the heat and salt water had led to dehydration. The fireworks went off as planned, but there was a lack of enthusiasm. Early this morning, most of the headaches hadn't gone away. Some people had found blood spots on their pillows when they woke up in the morning. I took my wife to the hospital to get an MRI. The doctors were astounded to find a small, foreign nodule pressing on her thalamus. She wasn't the only one. Almost 80% of people who were in the water yesterday had the same results. Surgeries to remove the objects were planned, but canceled after the first 3 surgeries resulted in violent seizures. Things were bad, but they quickly got worse. At dusk, each patient walked back toward the water, paying no heed to the family members and coworkers who tried to stop them. Those who were tackled turned violent. The patients walked a few hundred feet out into the water and then stood, motionless, for almost 15 minutes. Then, as those of us who were uninfected watched from the shore, large tentacles rose from the depths and began pulling our neighbors and loved ones into the water. They didn't try to run. My son told me that he ate his teacher. I'm starting to believe him. By Horror Junkie 123. Hey kiddo, how was school? I asked as Dylan trudged through the door. I received no response, just a shrug as he tossed his backpack aside. His refusal to make eye contact told me that something was wrong. Dylan, did something happen at school today? He meekly glanced up at me, swinging his foot back and forth. Yeah. What was it, sweetie? You can always tell me if someone is bothering you, he muttered under his breath, shifting his gaze to the ground. I'm sorry, honey. What was that? I ate my teacher, Mrs. Hollingsworth. I ate her. I was momentarily stunned. What kind of confession was that? I was expecting him to tell me that he flunked a math test or got a conduct mark. I was at a loss for words. Why did you do that? I replied, opting to play along. This had to be some type of game. He bit his lip, and I could see tears welling in his eyes. I forgot to write my spelling words, so Mrs. Hollingsworth gave me extra homework. I crossed my arms. Well then, it sounds to me like Mrs. Hollingsworth had it coming. Go get a jump on today's assignments, so you don't have to eat any more teachers, all right? Dylan's face lit up like a firework on the 4th of July. Okay, I will. Thanks for not being mad, he said, grabbing his backpack, and he bolted to his room. What am I gonna do with that boy? I chuckled, turning my attention back to the evening's dinner. The next day, I had to drop Dylan off at school myself. For the first time, he'd missed the bus. I didn't mind taking him. It would give me a chance to ask Mrs. Hollingsworth if she knew anything about his odd revelation. But Mrs. Hollingsworth wasn't there. She had a substitute. I thought it was a strange coincidence, but nothing to worry about. Surely she was just sick, right? Now, I'm starting to think that's not the case. I was again in the kitchen cooking dinner when I heard the familiar slam of the front door and little feet darting down the hall. Hey, buddy! Silence. Nothing, aside from the door to Dylan's room clicking shut. Odd, but not out of the ordinary. At least not until supper. Dylan, time for dinner. Just a second. No, food's ready now. Come get it. I said just a second. My blood began to boil. Who the hell did he think he was? I marched up to Dylan's door and threw it open, exposing him playing a new video game. Dylan Lane Webster, you listen.
No, Jessica. You listen to me.
My blood turned to ice. Dylan had never addressed me by my first name before. His voice was suddenly so deep and sinister.
Leave me alone, or I will consume you, mind, body, and soul, just like I did to your husband.
I hear screaming coming from the woods at night. I live in a big house by a country road in Pennsylvania. I love the outdoors. Often I go hiking, hunting, fishing, or ride on my ATV whenever I have a day off from work. There is a massive forest behind my house, and I have had countless adventures in those woods. Sometimes during the night, animals visit my backyard. I don't mind. They never cause any trouble. But I have a security camera that monitors that backyard, just in case. Most of the time it's just deer, foxes, and one time a black bear. There are not a lot of houses in my area, so the animals are essentially my neighbors. Last year, I invited my friends and family to my place for a barbecue cookout during the 4th of July. The adults and I were on the deck, telling silly stories of things that happened at work. Their children were either playing in the backyard, shooting Nerf guns at each other, or inside playing games. After the party ended, I cleaned up around the house. Around 10 p.m., I was in the living room watching the news and started to hear loud shrieks coming from the woods. I turned on the lights in the backyard and looked through the kitchen window, but saw nothing. I didn't think much of it and assumed that it was just a cougar. I have seen them a few times throughout the summer while hiking in the forest late at night. I turned the lights off and I went to bed. The next morning, I decided to check the security camera to see if any animals came to my backyard, but nothing happened that night. I was off from work that day, so I took my ATV and ventured into the woods. About 10 minutes of driving through the forest, I came across the remains of a buck deer, covered in claw marks, laying in the dirt. His eyes and tongue were ripped out. Upon further examination, there was a massive slit under its belly, and all of its organs were removed. This was rather unusual, and I assumed that the deer was attacked by a bear. I brushed it off and continued to ride my ATV through the forest. After 20 minutes had gone by, I got thirsty and stopped by a small rocky cliff near a creek. I drank my water while sitting on the cliff. It was very relaxing, hearing the calm stream of water and the birds chirping in the trees. I saw a red-tailed hawk swoop down into the water and grab a large fish. It was an incredible sight. And things like that is why I love going into the woods. Just when I was about to go back to my ATV and drive home, I noticed that a corpse of a young man lying at the bottom of the cliff, and blood was smeared all over the rocks around his body. I walked down a nearby hill to get a closer look, and much like the buck I saw earlier, the corpse was covered in claw marks, and his tongue, eyes, and organs were ripped out. This unsettled me, so I took pictures of the corpse and showed them to the police when I got home. The police recovered the human corpse for further investigation and told me to contact them if I find anything else suspicious in the forest. After they left, I went to a diner for lunch with my best friend George. "Something strange has been going on in the woods," I said. "I came across the husk of a deer and later a young man. Both of them had all their organs, eyes, and tongue extracted by something." George had a curious look on his face. "I recently got a job with the local police, and there have been numerous reports of cattle and even human corpses with the same conditions for the past week," he said. What he told me gave me an uneasy feeling. Some farmers think that it might be aliens abducting people and animals, but that's just ridiculous, George said. He drank his coffee and asked the waitress for a refill. He noticed a nervous look on my face. "What's wrong? You think aliens are doing this?" "Come on," George laughed. "No, not at all. I'm probably still in shock from what I saw in the woods earlier," I said. George nodded his head. "I would be spooked too if I was in your shoes." "Well, at least you didn't go Logan Paul, recording the dead body and making a joke out of it," said George. I chuckled from his comment, and after lunch I headed home. As much as I loved the outdoors, I didn't feel safe going into the woods anymore, so I locked all my doors and windows and played on my PS4 for the rest of the afternoon. When it got dark outside, I started hearing the same screaming that I heard last night. I turned on the lights in the backyard, and for a split second, I saw a pair of big eyes in the woods reflecting the lights, before rushing deep into the woods. I kept hearing the screaming throughout the night, so I went to bed with headphones on, listening to relaxing music, and I had a pocket pistol under the pillow just in case something entered my room. Luckily, I was able to sleep well for the night. When I had breakfast the next morning, I checked the security camera. Nothing came to my backyard until 3:17 a.m. I was shocked at what I saw. A hairy humanoid with 6 long limbs crawled into my backyard. It had dark, shaggy hair hanging from them like an orangutan. There was an arm directly on top of each shoulder. It had big, glowing eyes with no pupils, massive claws on each hand, and had its mouth gaping open with long, sharp teeth. It was dragging a massive bear covered in claw marks. The creature then began to eat the bear, but rather than just devouring it, the beast cut open the belly and ate the organs inside. It also ate the eyes and tongue. When the creature finished eating, it came to the back door and scratched it like a dog trying to get inside. It snarled and slowly crawled its way back into the woods, leaving behind the bear's skin and bones. After all the years I spent in those woods, I have never seen anything like this. I went to my backyard, and sure enough, the empty husk of the bear was lying in the grass. I checked my door, but there was no damage. I called the police immediately, and George came with them. I showed them the bear husk and the security footage. "This is horrifying," cried George. "Whatever that thing is probably the one who killed all those people and animals." George and the other officer decided to contact the state police. Shortly after, a squadron came and searched the forest. After several hours, they didn't find anything, so they left the area. When I came home from work that night, I began to hear the same screaming sounds coming from the woods. I was outside, and I heard the sound much clearer. It sounded like a dog or a hyena, but much deeper. I could not let this creature harm people and their livestock. I wanted to end this once and for all. I grabbed my hunting shotgun, pocket pistol, cell phone, and a flashlight. I then started to walk into the woods. As I journeyed into the forest, the screams echoed all over the place. The creature could be anywhere. Suddenly, I saw it several yards away from me, eating the inside of an elk. I carefully aimed my gun at the monster, and then it noticed me. I pulled the trigger and shot it. The beast fell over but quickly got up, brushing off the bullets on its chest. The bullets didn't even penetrate the skin. The ape creature gave out an enraged roar, and it charged at me on all 6 limbs. I shot it 4 more times, but they only slightly knocked the creature back. My gun suddenly jammed, and the creature jumped towards me. I swung my shotgun at its head like a baseball bat. I heard its neck snap, and the creature cried in pain. It fell to the ground, and its top pair of arms snapped its head back in place. The creature snarled at me and ran deeper into the woods. I tried shooting it with my pocket pistol, but the creature got away. Exhausted, I walked back to my house. I checked my phone, and it was 11 p.m. I locked everything and went to bed. I woke up at 4 in the morning and started hearing loud banging coming from the back door. I put on my pair of night vision goggles and looked through my window. I was startled when I saw not 1, but 3 ape creatures standing on my deck. One of them was able to smash the door open, and they crawled into my house one by one. Terrified, I tried calling 911, but my phone died. I could hear the beast walking through the house. They curiously looked around the house, interacting objects around them. I heard them knocking over my coffee maker and my refrigerator opening. One of them began eating the food inside. I then noticed that one of them was right underneath my chandelier by the front door. I shot the chain holding the chandelier, and it fell on top of the beast. I then ran down the stairs to the front door. The other two creatures began to chase me. One of them walked on the broken glass and cried in pain. The other one observed the two injured creatures and then climbed on the wall, avoiding the glass as if it were an insect. I put my shoes on and ran for the car. Just when I was about to start the engine, the ape creature slammed into my car, nearly pushing it over. I started the engine and drove away from my house. I headed to a hotel near a highway and asked for a room on the top floor. I spent the rest of the night there sleeping. I called off of work the next morning, telling them I was sick. I was able to charge my phone in the hotel room and called the police. Besides the chandelier and back door, not much was damaged in my house. When the police investigated my house, all the creatures were gone. However, the police were able to find clumps of black hair around the house, as well as some blood around the broken glass. The samples of hair and blood they collected has only added more mystery to what happened. At first, it didn't seem like anything unusual, but one of the scientists in the crime lab discovered that their chemical makeup wasn't only organic, yet it seemed unexpectedly mechanical, an organic machine. The samples were then sent to a hospital lab for further research. I began repairing the house and installed a much stronger back door. I adopted a young German shepherd from an animal shelter. I took her with me whenever I went into the woods and stayed out of there whenever it was dark outside. I haven't seen the creatures since then, but every once in a while, I hear them screaming in the woods. Occasionally, there are still reports in the local newspaper of animal and human husks being found in my area. Every time I am reminded of those things, I keep asking myself, what are they? But more importantly, how many more are out there? My mom has never laughed. Unknown author. My mom raised me as a single parent and has been my best friend for as long as I can remember. She wasn't strict or serious. She had always been fun, supportive, and caring. She wasn't a psychopath, but she just never laughed. I didn't notice my mom's inability to express or react to humor until one 4th of July when I was about 6. Everyone went to Grandma's place to celebrate. My uncle was like any other typical barbecue uncle, talking to everyone and cracking jokes as he cracked some eggs and grilled some steak. He took one of the eggs in his hand and tried his luck with a "why did the chicken cross the road" joke. He hit gold. Everyone standing near the grill bust out in laughter, all except my mom. I realized then that I hadn't ever seen her laugh. She would crack a grin, but there was never a maybe humor just wasn't her thing. Being the curious 6-year-old that I was, later that night I asked her, "Mom, why don't you laugh?" She did not even attempt to react to my question. She just kept staring blankly at the book she was reading. This was the first time in my life being ignored by her. She clearly didn't want to answer, so I stopped asking her. Instead, I made it one of my life goals as a kid to somehow make my mother laugh. Every morning before going to school, I'd attempt to get at least a chuckle out of her. I've tried everything: knock-knock jokes, dad jokes, dark humor, you name it. Nothing worked. It's like the part of her brain that processes humor wasn't even there. She was always off on Saturdays, so we made it a movie night. Every Saturday we would sit on the couch together and watch whatever I agreed on. I had probably bought out the whole aisle of DVDs of the comedy genre at Blockbuster as one of my attempts. Just like my thoughtfully constructed jokes that went out her other ear, the movies did not work. One Christmas, I bought her a paperback book titled How to Make Anyone Laugh and waited to see her reaction as she unwrapped the gift. She teared up as she stared at it. I didn't understand why she was so sad over a book that I gave her as a joke. I swear I could hear her faint whimpering as she attempted to cry. My obsession over my mom's apathy towards humor had gone overboard, and I was breaking her. I felt an absolute scum of a daughter and stopped all my attempts at humoring her. I'd accepted it. I locked the fact in the back of my head and never gave it a second thought. My mom just doesn't laugh. The years passed in a haze as I grew older. Soon, I moved out to attend university and found my soulmate at a stand-up comedy bar. And we got married as soon as we graduated. After we settled down and started doing well at our jobs, we tried, and I gave birth to the most beautiful baby girl. Her laugh always melted my heart. I would laugh with her, something my mother was never able to give me. My daughter was almost 4 months old, barely even able to crawl, when it happened. I woke up at 3 a.m. to the sound of her laughing her little lungs out. It was unusual because she usually woke up crying, not by laughing. I wish I had let her laugh herself to sleep instead of checking up on her that night. I opened the door to her room, which was slightly ajar, and looked inside. I saw it holding my daughter up from the crib. It wasn't human. It was all black, like a silhouette. It had a face, arms, and legs, but they were all black. It had a head but no face, just an arc with sharp teeth the size of pineapples, pointed out and protruding in a freak smile from the void where the mouth of a human should be. My maternal instinct was in overdrive, yet I was still frozen in place. Its torso was swaying as if it were laughing. I took one more look at my daughter in its hands. She was asleep. It wasn't her that was laughing. It was laughing in my daughter's voice. I have heard her laugh almost every single night since. Yet even as her mother, I don't have the courage to go to her room again. I get reminded of it again. My husband has been putting her back to sleep daily and is already fed up with the responsibility that I've been ignoring. He didn't see what I saw. I cannot laugh anymore. My husband seems really distant lately. He might leave me, leave us, like my father left my mother when I was still an infant. I'm scared for my daughter, and for her children if she ever has any. I hope not. I hope she doesn't notice that I don't laugh. I won't have the courage to tell her. My mother has never laughed, and now I know why. I would like to give a heartfelt thank you to the special friends of the channel for your overwhelming generosity. If you would like to support the channel, the link is below in the description. Also, please send me your stories and poems to duchessofdarkness27@gmail.com. You can also find me on Instagram at duchess.ofdarkness and Twitter at duchessofdarkn2. I want to thank all my listeners for your kindness, your encouragement, and your support. It means the world to me. Thank you for joining me. Until next time.